Det har vært jo veldig stygt.
Ja. Slurva jo grad, ja da.
Det er ikke noe sånn yrkesstolthet.
Nei.
Det. Ser puppene mine litt rare ut i den her, eller?
Ja, det synes jeg.
Hei.
Hei.
Du, den presentasjonen, er den klar?
Hei. Jeg sitter og spiller, jeg. Jeg har ikke lastet ned PowerPoint en gang.
Steinsprut, slarker rattet, dårlig kløtsj. Ligger og klasker inn mot vitale deler. DAB er det heller ikke forresten, FM-radio. Eneste du får er...
Finn.no.
Good morning, everyone, on this beautiful autumn day. I hope everyone has a good morning. It's super great, nice that we can gather everyone in product and technology together. And the reason we're here is to give you some updates from where we are in the work with the product and tech organization. And first of all, just to calm everyone's nerves, there's nothing to worry about. This information is all known to somebody, and it's just an update of where we are so far and what's going to happen next.
Yes, and we have been working with this for about a year now. And even if we have tried to involve and communicate broadly along the way, we know many of you feel you lack information, or you find it hard to understand or believe in the solutions you've seen so far. Some of you feel we have not been involving you enough, and we are sorry for that. Some of you feel the work we have done so far is really complicated and hard to understand. That's also understandable. We have not been able yet to simplify our work in a super crisp way yet. There are still a lot of questions where we don't have answers. And many of you feel left out. You have just heard about involvement and sessions, but you haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, and that's why I want to hold this meeting. Even if we're still a work in progress, even if there are many parts of this that we would like to improve or simplify before we gather all of you, it's because we'd rather communicate and talk with you sooner rather than later. I would like to thank everyone for their feedback. There's been a lot of feedback, encouragements, questions through different channels, and that's super valuable to the work. We listen to everything you have to say, but we have to acknowledge that there's a wide variety of reactions, from positive to questions to challenging, and it won't be possible to please everybody. But we would like you to continue with your feedback so that we can adjust the work as we move along.
And as you all know, we do have a complex organization, and it will continue to be complex because we are many marketplaces with the same technology, the same user interface, the same platform, the same brand, and a lot of shared solutions. And the needs of our users and customers are different. And the further we follow through their user journeys into transactions, the more different it seems to be.
We also know that there are huge risks in organizational work, and we decided early that we didn't want to do a big bag reorganization, but to use the same principles as we do with product development. But there are some differences. The difference is really about people. An organization is about people, it's about you, your opinions and feelings. Changing technologies and user interfaces are a lot simpler. You just change them and there are no feelings or reactions involved, but it's different with teams, which is the smallest part of an organization. It takes time to build a successful team, and we need to cater for those feelings and those reactions. And we still believe in the insights we found at the beginning of this work. If anything, that belief has just been strengthened in the ways. And we also have found the direction and a plan for where we're going.
And when we think of it, we are really lucky. We already have an incredible organization. This year has really shown that. And we have a well-known strategy. We have high ambitions, and we have trust from our owners. We will grow. No one will lose their job. And we really do believe that we can make an even better place to work. So let's have a look at our work. Starting with why. Why are we doing this? We want to make a customer and user-oriented organization. if we not, that's why we go to work, to deliver value and to deliver value fast. And we want to have flexibility to adapt to strategic priorities and changes. And this why guides our what. We believe in teams responsible for business results. We believe we need a solid platform and autonomous teams. And we need a great collaboration and processes for the organization. And as Nikolai said earlier, we have been and will continue to work iteratively with this. When it comes to customer and user-oriented organization, we already have the swirl, and we won't change that. It works fine, and it keeps our eyes on our customers and make us goal-driven and work rapidly. But we have seen that there are a problem to solve, and there's a gap between the people working within the marketplaces and the teams working across the marketplaces, the functional teams. And last week, there were an eye-opening meeting between Caroline at Jobs and people from Add-In. And that made it very clear that the gap is still there. And I will encourage you all to meet and take initiatives to meet both way. That the marketplaces take responsible to meet the teams and the other way around. When it comes to deliver value fast, it's about deliver value to our customers and users. And when we do that, we can make this value to our business. And we also need to think of that the solutions we are creating is technical feasible. And this is an area where we need to be even more specific. What is the technical cost when we create solutions and the complexity we introduce to our platform? We have a strategy that we update every year, and we change priorities continuously. And because of that, we also need an organization that changes continuously. And we have a lot of mechanisms for that, and we will talk more about that later. But we have priorities and cases, adjacent cases due to our portfolio that changes all the time. And we are really happy for all the feedback we get. And we got this from Eirik in Travel, and pointed out that the good thing about the work we are doing is that we will have the flexibility in our organization to change really fast and adapt to the changes. So how will we do this? First, we will create what we call outcome teams, responsible for business results. And as we have mentioned before, we are really inspired by this book, Inspired, Marty Kagan. It is cross-functional teams that will create great experiences for our users and customers. And a big shift is going from functional teams to outcome teams. You've seen this slide many times before, many of you. But functional teams solve market problems and pick problems from our priority list. Outcome teams are responsible to deliver on business goals and keep the marketplaces updated. They are also responsible to discover problems and find solutions to deliver on the goals. And also responsible to cooperate with sales, customer support, marketing, to succeed with the goals. The marketplaces is accountable for the marketplace metrics. They are and success in the marketplace. They are responsible to set and prioritize goals, and they are the goal owner. When the marketplaces before was the problem owner. So that's the big difference. And then Jarle will talk about some outcome teams we have established.
Yes, our first outcome team was established around New Year. Former teams Effect Documentation and Effect Products were merged into a new outcome team that was named AdBoost. The ambition was set to deliver, sell, and document better effect to help our customers make smarter choices and thereby help the marketplaces to achieve their goals. This team was set up to be a horizontal team, delivering on goals from all marketplaces. Next. And then just before summer holidays, the job domain team was kind of re-established now as a domain team. Their ambition was acing the candidate experience through data-driven matching, personalization, and unique insights. For the job domain team, it wasn't that big of a change. They had already been very involved in defining the market problems that was on the problem list. And the first consequence was that the market problems was withdrawn, and then their goals was put up in the section for prioritized outcomes instead. And you find these prioritized outcomes for both these outcome teams on the same page as the on the same conference page as the market problems. Next. So how is it going? How is it gone so far? This is from AdBoost, where we have the most experience. I think everyone knows that it was a bumpy start. It was a few difficult months in the beginning, but now I think the team is really up to speed. First of all, the results are quite good. The team delivers on prioritized goals, and these are followed up in the team's business plan. Then we measure the team index, and we have seen a steadily increase since this spring. We measure, I think it's 10 questions, but I can mention a few of them. It's whether the priorities are clear, how well the team collaborate internally and with stakeholders. We measure the motivation and the team member overall satisfaction. So we have seen a positive development there. And then we also measure a stakeholder index via a survey where we ask whether the marketplaces achieve better results related to Effect products and documentation, the documentation of Effect, now that we have this outcome team than before. And a few other things related to the stakeholder satisfaction. We are not done with the measuring, so we want to measure also how fast are we delivering customer value and how user and customer oriented are we. Could be measured by how many from the team met a customer or user last month. Yes, I think I would also like to mention again that on the conference page where we have the market and problem list, you can also find a specific section for the prioritized goal for the outcome teams. We have also looked into other teams, and Bente will talk more about that.
Yes, so I will talk a little bit about the team that didn't come to be, mostly to tell you a little bit about the process of how we want to work with the organization. Because after we set up AdBoost, our theory was, for a lot of you, it doesn't seem there was any teams until the job team arrived before summer. But actually we had a process with another team that we thought we were going to have. We thought it was a good idea to build an outcome team around one or more transaction journeys in Finn. And when we started out, we were pretty sure that the transaction journey for Motor and for Torget was so similar that it would make sense to have them both in one team. But we were not sure, and we did not want to just make a decision upon our beliefs. So we set down a group with a lot of people from customer, also included the owners of the Torget and Motor marketplaces, and did an evaluation of our beliefs. We worked together for a couple of weeks in February into March, and although we saw why the thought came that the Motor and Torget was similar, when we started looking into the details, we saw that the two journeys actually were quite different. For instance, in Motor, you have high-valued items. In Torget, there's a lot of low-value items. The problems in the transactions are not the same between Motor and Torget. When we look at insurance, both of them talk about they want insurance for the goods, but it's completely different use cases for when this insurance should apply and what it should cover. So we were sitting down and trying to make up a proposal for decision to the group when COVID-19 hit us. So we were actually never able to present our findings. However, we had enough background information so that the group could make a decision either way. What we saw was that this does not make sense. We don't want to have one team covering two different transaction journeys. So our decision was to continue with transaction journey Motor, which was already ongoing, and that we would set up Torget as separate initiatives once we had the sufficient capacity. We'll talk a little bit more about that, about Torget later, but just to show you that we try to work iteratively. We're using the swirl, like Kaya mentioned, to learn and to find new solutions. And with that, I'm going to set over to Ivar.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, that's an intro. So to succeed in the future, we strongly believe that we need a solid platform, solid technical platform with clear boundaries between the different components and obviously also the different teams. And we also strongly believe that our reusable platform capabilities will give us a competitive advantage in the future. Also, the book Team Topologies has organized our thinking a bit around how to structure the team to take care of this, and also given us a common language and building blocks for this. But first, I would just briefly mention that I strongly believe that we have a very much better situation today than just 10 years ago. We have evolved our platform a lot, but we're not finished. So we need to continue kind of that evolvement of the platform and strategically look at how we can make it even better and easier to succeed with all the new stuff that we're trying to do in Finn. So from team topologies, we were introduced to 4 different team topologies. And the book also argues that most software companies can benefit of kind of limiting themselves to these 4 team types. And it makes it much easier mentally for us to kind of discuss how to organize the various teams to take care of different software or parts of our software platform. So one of the most important team, and this will probably also be the primary type of almost all software companies, or at least commercial software companies, is the outcome team, or in the book they actually call it stream-aligned teams. And the outcome teams should be aligned around a flow of business change, and usually around a common outcome. And these teams are empowered to deliver customer or user value as quickly, safely, and independently as possible. We would like to kind of limit the handoffs to other teams or wait for other teams to perform other parts of work to be done. But obviously, sometimes these teams also need to collaborate with other teams, especially when we are trying to achieve new outcomes or solve new use cases that we haven't solved before. But we should be aware that these types of collaboration between teams, it increases cognitive load. It will also require us to kind of make sure that these teams that needs to collaborate has the same priority at the same time. There is also a kind of different types of thing we can organize these teams around. It can be a single product, a single service, or a set of features, a user journey, and so on. The other kind of important team type is the platform team. And these kind of teams should work on the underlying platform supporting the outcome teams in delivery. And they should work closely with outcomes teams to understand their needs. And they kind of look at what they're building as the internal product. And it should be super good quality. It should be well documented. They should aim for having this self-service, however you consume the product. They should be data-driven. What should the needs be? And they should kind of look at the big picture. Which type of services are we delivering today? And how can we evolve that to meet the coming needs in the future for the company? And they then need to understand kind of the strategy of Finn. They need to understand where the teams are going. And we strongly believe that if we're able to kind of figure out which platform teams that gives us this competitive advantage, it will make a lot of things easier. It will make it easier for us to succeed with new initiatives. And I think we already have some quite good examples of places where we have achieved this today. One of those are FIAS, which is a platform kind of capability that is a very clear contract on how you run an application on our infrastructure today. And it makes it super simple for a team to spin up something new. And this is kind of the mental model we want around this. Also, teams need to interact with each other. And there is, in this book at least, there is 3 kind of main ways of interaction. You have collaboration. And collaboration is when they need to work together. They need to have the same priority. They need to sit together, do the discovery work together. And this is kind of the most costly way to interact with another team. And the X as a service, this is the preferred way for platform team to deliver their service. It means that you provide something that is well documented. It should be easy to use. And self-service to the extent we can do that. And the last one is facilitating. This basically means that someone is coming into the team, working together with the team to kind of train them or coach them in some new skill. It could be that one person in another team is very good at front end, for instance, and it goes into another team to kind of learn that skill to the other team to make them able to do more themselves in the future, with the goal of going out of the team again. To give a concrete example on how we're thinking, and this is showing that we have different transaction journeys already that we are looking into. The transaction journey Torge, which is a lot of talk around. We have transaction journey Motor, which has gone a long way, and we also have Bolig til leie. And they will all need, of course, different things to succeed, but we see that there is some shared things that or components or platform services they need to kind of integrate with. And if we are going to succeed with this, if this is going to scale well, they need to be able to do this themselves without kind of putting in a ticket, waiting for the other team to have the right priority to actually solve their needs. And then we need to figure out what are the kind of, how should they be able to plug in their needs in the various platform components so that they're able to do the things they need to do with, and using that as a platform service. And this is much more efficient than scheduling the meeting. Just getting a meeting can take like 2 weeks, and coordinating the backlogs and wait for other teams to do their part of the work to be done. And now I think it's over to Nikolai to look at the org chart, or the highlight. Yeah, thanks, Ivar. That was all the small parts. And what happens when you put all of this together? Where are we going? So this chart that I'm going to show now will also send out or share this, because it's kind of hard to see on this small screen, especially if you're on a small laptop. But this is the big picture. And this isn't necessarily, the correct answer, but given what we know today and the direction and the insights we gained, this is what we think is a good goal for the future. It's probably not won't end up like this, and we'll learn more along the way, but this is the direction that we want to head in now. And if you're going to talk a bit about it, there are different columns in these charts. We are doing next generation marketplaces as a strategic shift, and we know that that will have more to do with the transaction journeys for our users, both private and professionals. So we sort of arranged ourselves around that. We have to activate and inspire users. We have to have products to sell, and we have to have some sort of communication and transaction support. But there's still going to be ads. So there's an ad base column here, which is arranged around the ads. And we need to take care of our professional customers, which is the tools for professionals. The very top row, responsibility, is more about, is a tool for us to see, okay, what kind of goals do they work for in these different columns? So that's not too important. And these columns aren't new departments or anything like that either. It's a way to organize our thinking. But if you look at the rows of the chart, which is probably more interesting, the two top row, marketplace teams and outcome teams, the green and orange rows, those are the teams that are most closely like the outcome teams that Ivar talked about. They'll have goals, they need to coordinate with the marketplaces. And we've separated them into marketplace teams and outcome teams, but they're really the same thing. A travel team is clearly an outcome team for the travel domain. So, but to make it more recognizable, there are two rows here. Some of these you'll recognize, they're already there. Some have started now as outcome teams like AdBoost, Job Domain. And then there's a list of others who are more, some are quite similar to what we have today. Some might be different, like the user engagement team. And we know that some of these teams might be too big, some might be too small. That's something we have to figure out. And underneath the marketplace and outcome teams, we have the complicated subsystems teams, which Ivar didn't talk too much about. But these are teams that need very special knowledge and very special systems that they encapsulate so that other teams don't have to worry about that. So for instance, we have the search team, which encapsulates search. We have the data warehouse team, recommendation engine, which is very specific knowledge. And then how are all these teams able to deliver value fast? Well, they build on top of a solid platform. So the platform teams like messaging, platform web, those kind of things, but also some new ones might be notifications, which we'll talk about, marketing automation. So this is the direction that we're going in. There are bigger and smaller questions in this. And when we come into some complicated discussion, like the buy and sell or platform app, we go and talk to the teams like Bente talked about. When we're setting up the transaction journey team, we had to go to the team, talk a bit, learn more, and adjust to the course. That's what we'll do as well. But this is the map for the future, and this isn't the picture as things exactly how they'll be, but the direction we want to move it. But one thing we've gotten a lot of feedback on that chart is saying, well, those boxes are nice, but the real problem in every day is how you work together. How do you prioritize? How do you support each other? That's the big question. So we clearly need better or maybe a new set of collaboration rules and processes to deal with this. And what you learn is, that Having just the org chart is like a skeleton, but the nerve system and the muscles is a crucial part of the solution. So how do we collaborate? What kind of processes guides us? How do we prioritize? That's a question that we really need to get into now. And we have a lot of rules on this today. The strategy is updated annually. That's the biggest picture of how we go. Then we have the management team priorities, which are set twice a year or more often if it's needed, which is the really high level guiding. Then we have the tech and market problems, which most of you know, for prioritizing needs from the marketplaces into the teams. And then most teams have some sort of prioritization mechanisms underneath that to balance technical work versus product work versus other things, or coordinating with other teams. So there are a lot of strategies, a lot of processes going on in Finn. And they might not always give the same answer, which might be challenging. And on top of that, we also have our portfolio with the A and N cases. So to make sure that we go after new opportunities, we've split our portfolio into core, adjacent, and new, which is a 3 times a year structure. And like I said, in each team, you have to balance the needs for bug fixes, maintenance, small and iterative product development, towards larger product and tech initiatives that are in more long terms. And this is something that the product owners and the technical domain experts has to do every day to make these adjustments and challenges. And this is a mechanism that we talked a lot about maybe 4 or 5 years ago in Finn, which also needs a freshening up. So what we're doing? Well, we're looking at designing a new system. There's a lot of good things about today's process, like having continuous priorities, those kind of things. There's a lot of challenges as well. So you have to look at this in the big picture, taking everything into account, from the strategy and the high-level priorities to the daily priorities in the team and the portfolio, and look at it and come up with a new process or an improved process that takes care of tomorrow's situation. And very concretely, Jens Hauglum is taking charge of that work now, and he'll work on it for a month. He'll involve a lot of people, and he's already started involving people. But the ambition is that we have a prioritization process that ensures that what is most important for Finn is unambiguous, it's continuously assessed, and opens up for autonomy at team level. So something that guides everyone, but also allows the team to have the autonomy that they needed, and is continuously updated. So that's one thing that's happened next. What else is going to happen over the next weeks, months, quarters? Well, we talked about STP for Schibsted Tech Polska. We have the opportunity to staff teams in Poland. This is not just about cost efficiency. It's just much a way to scale our tech organization, getting access to more talent. It's getting tough to recruit programmers in Oslo. Having more locations is a great opportunity to build more teams. And STP is part of Schibsted. It's not outsourcing. It's just another location of product development. And News Media, which has used them a lot, have a lot of great experiences, the same as Next Teams. And even Finn has a data warehouse team already there in place. And also Style Time is developed by a Polish team. So everybody says, you know, if you do this right, you'll get super engaged teams who are very motivated and takes ownership of the products. And the latest is that the teams that Finn will set up will be placed in Krakow, not Gdansk. And the very first team to be set up in Poland will be the notification platform team. This is a dedicated team to create something that supports all the transaction journeys across the marketplaces. We know that several of the transaction journey teams need to succeed with notifications to successfully support the transaction journey. So having a platform team for this is a great solution. And Solfrid is going to be the product owner for that team. And then I'll hand over to Vegard to talk a bit about what's happening around Add-in.
Yes, thank you. In Add-in, we've been, during the last months, seen an increase of ambitions with dependencies to Add-in, especially classified and product sales. And we are now, together with Add-in and PLG and TLG, investigating multiple paths to remove bottlenecks and delegate less core responsibilities to other teams, whether it's in Norway or Poland. And the end goal is to better help customers using Finn through third-party systems, and to be able to increase growth, selling smarter, introducing dynamic and value-based pricing. Next. And this, I guess, is Betta's slide.
It's my slide. And we will also set up a transaction journey for Torget in Oslo and start recruiting for that. And we can also say that Katinka is the new product owner of this outcome team, and she will report both to Katrine, the product director for Torget, and have dotted line to Jarle, because she needs the knowledge of Torget, and she also needs to be trained and work hard with her skills on product management. She is a very experienced product manager, but that's also very important in this role. So we are happy for that. Next, that's we will also continue to work on goals and metrics and follow up this work regularly, as Jarle was talking about the outcome teams. And we will do this till we have, next slide, delivered on our one-pager for this work, the why, that we have a user-oriented organization, that we deliver value fast, that we adapt on a strategic form and autonomous teams, and have great collaboration and processes. And with that said, Nikolai, next slide.
Okay, thank you to everyone in the core team for leading us through this. Like I said, we'll share more information available on Buzz. We'll link to the material at Slack. But if you don't do that, please reach out to us, either personally on Slack or even better through the Slack channel FinPT.org Evolution. Post questions, say, well, we're missing some information. Please tell us some more. And remind us and keep us to our promises about communicating more. And I know, I didn't spend too much time on the org chart. We'll send that out. It's not, like I said, it's not the correct answer. It's the direction that we want to move in. And I know that's probably going to, release quite a few questions. So please reach out when you have the chart later and ask us questions. But for now, we'll do questions on Slido. So Frida, if you can bring up Slido. Then someone will join me as well, I think. Yeah, Kaya comes, the rest as well. Oh, I can read the slide on the side. Shouldn't market problems define a measurable outcome already and not specify a solution? Well, ideally they should, but I think there has been some challenges. I don't know, maybe Jarle wants to have a comment on that.
Definitely, the market problems are supposed to define a user need that is not solved, or a market problem, not a solution. But we see that is one area where we have kind of gotten a bit too far from each other, the marketplaces and the teams, and that is one of the gaps that we want to close with this work.
Okay, next. I feel every all hands and Slack update from PNT.org starts with "sorry for not updating you and involving you. What shall we do different in the future?" Well, I think it's not just a feeling. I think it's correct. We start with that every time because we get so involved in our work and we get feel a bit guilty when we talk about this. I think one concrete move that we talked about is introducing a rhythm or cadence to our work, so it will set up, certain points in time where we have to, or where we will communicate and involve. That's at least one thing. And maybe Kaja, you have some input on this as well.
Yeah, we we see that we all are leaders that have a lot of other things to do also. So Nikolai and I have started to talk, do we need some help to really drive this and help us do the communication and structure the work? But that's just a conversation we have just started. But we see that we all have other important roles than this work.
Next question: how can we avoid that the new teams won't be as the markets team were before? And then I'm guessing they're talking about in the old days, 10 years ago, and that the results won't be a massive technical debt. Well, I think there's a couple of changes. This time around, we have a tech organization. We didn't have that last time. We didn't have a CTO. Developers were organized into the marketplaces. I know that the marketplaces, at least everyone I know about in product, understands more about the technical platform and our issues. So we have to make sure that there's a balance there. And we talk about the gap between the marketplaces and the teams. That goes both ways, right? Teams need to understand the needs in the marketplaces. The marketplaces needs to understand what it takes to develop good technical solutions and what sort of debt or challenges the choices they make means for the team. Anyone else wants to? No? Then we'll take the next one. What's the difference between an outcome team and an A-case or N-case team? Very good question, Kaja.
Yes, that's a very good question. How we look at it is that A-case teams and N-case teams, they can evolve into outcome teams. So they are early, they start rapidly experimenting, testing, making things that we will throw away, making prototypes. But when they start to nail and scale and have success, then they will evolve into outcome teams. And this is what we see right now, that many of our A-cases are mature, and they make a pressure on the core activity, and that's why we need to kind of slow down and pitch new cases and rather make them successful outcome teams and make successful platform teams to support them.
Yep. So the new teams are kind of like what the travel team is. Well, we've looked at the organization when we were looking for experiences, and quite a few teams in the organization work quite closely to this already, and probably especially the teams that work with a single marketplace. The travel team is concerned about the goals for travel, just as the business side of travel, so they're quite similar to that. I think Team Travel and some other teams are a bit lucky though, because they only have one marketplace to work with. So it's a good pattern, but some of these other outcome teams has to relate to more than one marketplace, and it might be a bit more complex. And I guess that takes us into the next question. In practice, we use the market problem game to decide which priority vertical the ad input teams should work on. Is that decision delegated to the outcome teams? Jarle?
What we have said until we have a new or a revised prioritization process, that is kind of what it would be like. But as Kaja, or was it you, Nikolai, that mentioned that we will see, we will take a look at how we prioritize overall, with Jens taking lead on that. So I think we need to come back to how this is going to take place.
Because we have to have a mechanism in place that sort of sets the direction for everyone. Where are the biggest challenges? Where do we need to succeed now? What happens when a platform team or X as a service team is a bottleneck, Ivar?
Yeah, that's some great questions. So I think, of course, in an ideal world, a platform or something you consume X as a service should be just awesome and it should be easy to use and you don't need to talk to anyone. But the reality is that we will need new capabilities. We will need new endpoints or slightly variations on how the service are actually working. And this is why the platform teams need to collaborate with the outcome teams to understand their users, their needs, their visions, their strategies, to plan for the future. And at some points that there will be conflicts. Of course, different teams needing something different at the same time. And this is just something the new prioritization process will need to guide us on how to prioritize between those different initiatives so that we can focus on the most value-creating initiatives at the first, and then we can take the next thing.
Thank you. What's the difference of a product owner, product manager versus product chef, produkteier, produktutvikler? I'm a little confused after reading Inspired. Kaja?
Yeah, good question. And we have a lot of those questions. Well, in Finn, we have product owners and business developers. And that's Finn construction, that the business developer is the one understanding the problem, defining the problem, and the product owner is solving the problem. So the product owner of an outcome team combine those two roles, as Katinka will, being the product owner of the transaction journey for Torget. So she will both be responsible for the business outcome, the income, the revenue streams, and work close with the developers and UX and sales and what she needs to fulfill those goals. So it put a lot of pressure on that role, but we also think that it will be much more fun to work together as a team to reach those goals. But we need to clarify roles. I got a lot of questions on that, so that's will also happen next.
We see that you already have recruited persons in the new structures. Why don't you have an open hiring process around new positions and possibilities? Kaja?
Well, as a principle, if a person is more than 60% close to the role, as Katinka was, she was kind of head of or in the core team for the transaction journey, then we don't do a process. But when it's not that much overlap with an existing role, then we do an open process for every role.
Maybe the committee is too management heavy if you don't have time to work on it. There's a smiley face behind it, but there's some truth in it. There's a lot of work to be done, but we spend a lot of work on this. We spend, Kai and I and the rest of the core team spend a lot of our time on working on this, and this is, I would say, a typical management task as well, to make sure that the organization works as well as possible, to remove obstacles for everyone working here. But there's a lot of work of different types, and then we could use some help as well. And we are management heavy, but we also have a reference group where we involve the whole organization. We haven't used that as much as we should probably, but we have had some very good sessions with those where there are representatives from across the organization. You talk a lot about these books you read, but what have you done to obtain learnings from other companies which already have established product teams? We've read more about them. We've talked to them in different settings. We've done research around them. We haven't had this explicit talk to external companies this time, but a lot of us has been working on these kind of questions for many years and talked to many companies over the years and talking to them. Anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, we did have a session with Spotify early on. Ivar initiated that. So we collected inspiration from many different companies, but yeah, we try also to simplify. So that's why we have kind of used these two books as examples.
Yeah, and also Finn is quite far ahead on how we organize things. We've been out talking about the way we organize things. Companies ask us about how we're doing this. So there are definitely some companies that we can learn from, and we try to reach out to some of them like Spotify, but there's also a challenge to find the good examples as well. Who will decide what the platform teams will focus on when outcome teams have different needs? Maybe Ivar, or start with Ivar and then Jarle maybe.
So again, I think we really need dedicated product owners or product managers or whatever we call them in these teams as well. They need to kind of maintain the roadmap of what they're kind of owning for Finn, and really be talking to the teams, talking to the different marketplaces, really be understanding where are Finn going. What does it mean that we are building the next generation marketplace? What will be the core focus for the next 6 months, 12 months? And what are kind of good and weak points of what we have today, and how can we improve that, make it easier for the teams to be self-served on using the kind of the services we're already using. So I think the idea is that platform teams will work the same way as outcome teams. They will just have different outcomes, different goals. That's my kind of belief, at least.
Yep. Will this change give product managers dedicated resources? Jarle, I thought they had, but...
Yeah, I think if I understand this question right, you're asking whether the product managers will be able to kind of recruit people or have the full CEO of the product. I think that is still to be done in the IT or the tech organization and the UX organization. Yeah. But
we are trying to create great teams. Talking about these outcome teams, so the recruitment will happen from tech and UX, of course, but we will, when we talk about product managers, we talk about them as part of a team. Isn't that correct? Yeah.
And we still need a flexible organization, so we can't really say, oh, you're a product owner of product X, we guarantee that you'll have these 8 people for the next 24 months, because the priorities might change. You might need to strengthen or moving resources. How are our Polish teams being integrated into the rest of the Finn? Very good question, and something that we need to figure out along the way. We're setting up the first team now, like I said, on the notification platform. But we have a lot of lessons learned from News Media, and what we know is that they need a lot of support in the beginning. We need to onboard them on the Finn platform. Finn needs to change the way we work, the way we dissipate information. But in short, these teams should be just like any other product development team. But being a new team on a new area without any knowledge in the beginning will be difficult. So the existing teams need to support them, especially in the beginning. And then over time, I hope we'll have a Finn environment or even a Nordic marketplace environment in Krakow, where the teams there will be able to help each other as well. Will the platform know something? So what happens when an outcome team needs a platform component? How is this prioritized in the platform teams? Well, you sort of talked about this already, Ivar, but...
Yeah, I think it's, of course, the teams will do prioritization of their own backlog, but again, we need to prioritize the goals for Finn together. And we don't have how we do that in the new kind of setup is exactly what Jarle will lead lead kind of the insight round on. And we need to come back to how to kind of prioritize across whole of Finn when we have slightly more details on that. But yeah, for sure, there will be prioritization also in the new organization.
Yeah, and I think the question as well says when an outcome team needs a platform component, that's where we want to move away from. An outcome team will have a need to do something for their users, and then the platform teams can come up with saying, well, maybe you can need this component, or maybe we can solve it some other way. Will the platform teams get more people? Because none of the teams are platform ready yet. Well, in the platform part, we do some investments like the notification platform team in SDP. We've been working on notifications for a while, but it's mostly been with lent out resources or high turnover. There's been a core team that's been there, but we haven't been able to dedicate a team around it. We're able to do that now. So there will be more people, but we need to look at the big picture and see where are the new people most valuable for Finn to realize this strategy. Sometimes it will be platform teams, sometimes it will be outcome teams. This initiative has been going on for a while now. What outcomes have we delivered so far? When will the reorg MVP be shipped? Well, we're working iteratively, so I don't think there will be an MVP unless you count the very first teams, which was shipped in January, like AdBoost and the transaction journey teams. And this work will be going on for as long as we need to change our organization, which means for a long time. But the outcomes are a few teams have been set up. We have the skeleton, and what we realized is before we put more teams into this, we need to have the process in place. That's why we changed focus and gave Jens the task of looking at the processes before we put more pieces into this. Kaja?
Yeah, and we also, as mentioned, and Jarle was showing a few examples of, we have team index to understand whether the team feels okay. We have stakeholder index to understand whether the teams deliver on the stakeholders' expectations or goals as they and we also want to measure how often we have contact with our users and customers, and of course how happy they are with our solutions. So yes, we are following up the things we have done so far, and we will continue to do that.
So I see there's a bunch of questions coming in. We won't have time for everything, but we'll, as usual, we'll write them down and come up with a written Q&A on the rest of them. I see there's a lot of things on platform teams and autonomy. We'll do a few more questions, but if you don't have time to get to those, we'll do them written in a few today or later in this week. So will platform teams have any autonomy, or will they do the work laid out, or will they do the work laid out and prioritized by other teams? The platform teams will have autonomy. They need to build a platform which gives the other teams autonomy. And they'll have the same level of autonomy as an outcome team has in regards to their users. They have to solve the need of their users. The platform team has to solve the need of their users, but how they solve them will probably be quite autonomous. But we haven't really gotten into this, so we need to figure out how this works. Isn't the risk that outcome teams will almost always be dependent on the platform teams? It's hard to understand how this will make us any more lean. You talked a bit about this earlier, Ivar, in the presentation.
Yeah, I think also it's worth mentioning that the most of our teams will be outcome teams, and it does. Outcome teams will also sometimes need to collaborate, either that they are using each other's data, or they are using a need to collaborate or add some endpoints, or even have some kind of APIs other outcome teams are using. So you shouldn't automatically assume that outcome team will only collaborate with platform teams. And platform teams are more for kind of the generic part, or things that we can use for basically anything, like email or notifications can be used for anything. Or Fias, you can deploy anything on Fias, basically. And that's kind of the thinking that we need to have about this. It's not about because we have an API, we are suddenly a platform team. And if we are having that mindset, you will see that, okay, there will be some platform teams that deliver services to the other teams in Finn, but those will be very generic, and it should be used by at least maybe 5 or even more teams to make it worth the while. So it's kind of building reusable things that really are reused for a lot of purposes. Then it's a platform. That's the kind of idea I have in my head, at least.
How does our legacy solutions fit into this organization? Well, the legacy solutions are part of the platform, are part of our outcomes. But I think the responsibility for these are so it won't be like the outcome teams will only care about new stuff or new. They will have to take care of also the existing solutions and the existing product debt, not just technical debt, but the product debt as well. Nikolai mentioned that SDP is just another location for Finn. Does that mean that current employees can work from Poland as well? Well, it's an interesting question. We talked about remote work. I'm not sure we're ready to go for fully remote work yet, but there's also a different perspective here. Is we're using SDP to be able to scale to different locations without all the overhead, which means that if you're an SDP employee, they take care of the HR stuff, the recruiting, everything that has to do with taking care of you as an employee in Poland, and Finn can't do that. So if you want to work for Finn from Poland right now, you would have to change to SDP, I guess, because that's the scale benefit that SDP gives us. Oh, and we're over time, so the rest of these, and I'm going to look at the actual, there's like 20 more questions, so we'll have some work to do answering those. But we'll create the Q&A and we'll share it as soon as we can. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the good questions, and we'll try to keep you more informed as we go along. So have a very nice day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.